watching some poor man podcast reacts as I get this fixed up. Let me do a little cleaning. Sorry about this, but no one's here, so that should be okay. And the other one on the back too, just in case I switch cameras. I mean, okay. So, this is gonna be Ask Me Anything Friday. So we'll see how this goes. It's a bit early, so don't know if people will check in or not. I'm pretty sure this live is public. Let me double check. So just to make sure. Check my channel, see if I'm just checking my channel to I'm just checking everything, see if everything is good. Yep. So monetization is enabled. Wait. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Hold up. Okay, yeah. So monetization is enabled. Um, what's up, Carlton? And yep, public. Good stuff. Yep. So I'm live. So it's Ask Me Anything format. I don't have a set subject for today. I like doing this, usually on the weekend, whether it's a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. But I'll switch it up every once in a while. Did I run? Oh yeah. Oh, I already ran earlier. You already know I got to do that. So yeah, I ran this early this morning. Um, did I run after? I'm trying to remember if I ran before or after my wife and I watched Invincible. I was trying to see if she would get into it. And I warned her it was violent, but she was like, "It's okay, it's animated." I was like, "Yeah, it's animated, but it's gonna get worse." She's only into the second episode, so she hasn't seen the part where Omni Man kills all these people using his son by just pushing his son into these people's bodies. So yeah, I wonder if she's gonna just say it's just animated when she sees that scene. I mean, maybe because she saw the scene where he just killed the entire superhero team, the Guardians, which is like the Justice League. He's gonna want to work out legs and run tomorrow afternoon. That's cool. Yeah, definitely gotta run every day. That's my therapy. um, and for men, I think exercise is better as a form of is more therapeutic. Sorry, more therapeutic for us than sitting on someone's couch and talking about our feelings. Like if you're masculine, that's not going to really help unless you just don't have anyone in your life to talk to. Then yeah, you should probably have a psychotherapist because you need someone to be able to convey your thoughts and feelings to at least sometimes. You definitely don't want to do that with your wife. Your wife should not be your emotional pin cushion. And people disagree with me on that, but I'm like, this is basic red pill knowledge. Like, you should not be using your wife or girlfriend as uh, an emotional pin cushion. Carlton says I love running. It helps clear my mind, and cardio is good for the heart. Yeah, exactly. The good the ironic thing, I've said this probably a million times already, but yeah, the good thing about running is generally what's good for the brain is also what's good for the heart. So it does give you a bit of mental clarity. That's why some people call it moving with like moving meditation. I remember I said that like 11 years ago, and I thought I was being clever, and then I've seen other people use the same terminology too, but it does give you like a sort of clarity and focus. Um, and when you and another thing I've noticed, which I didn't think I would ever enjoy, is that now I enjoy running without my headphones. I used to always run with my earbuds blasting music, and it's good in a way because it helps me push through um, when I get tired. But when you run no with no music, no earbuds, it kind of you kind of develop a sort of mental resilience. So, and then of course because it's a cardiovascular exercise, of course it's good for the heart. So, like I said, running. Bruce Lee was right when he said running is the king of exercises. I mean, it really is, and it's so funny that people avoid it, especially a lot of people I know who are fat in my life, and I try to tell them I should say high calorie here on YouTube. I don't want to get demonetized. But a lot of high calorie people in my life, I've told them for years how to lose weight and be healthy, and they just don't do it. They would rather, like, I have a client that I work with. She would rather pay a personal trainer. Her personal trainer is also fat. I'm like, why would you go to a gym where your personal trainer is fat, which doesn't even make sense to me? Going to a gym where the personal trainer is fat when he has access to all these resources himself to stay fit. How is he going to teach you to be fit and he's fat and he's not fit himself? Like that just doesn't make sense. It's different. Like it's different than like when you go to a doctor or you have a coach, like you play basketball or football, and they're out of shape because it's not the same thing. Um, Doctors are bad at taking their own advice, from what I hear from many of these physicians. And coaches are usually people who are already way past their prime, so they're not expected to be able to be in optimal health, but they can teach you how to succeed in your respective field of sport. But a young trainer who's basically around your age, plus or minus 3 years, should not be out of shape. Like he literally works at the gym. How does he not use those resources to stay fit himself? And it's like I told my client, like she just needs to put down the fork. I was like, stop overeating. And she was like, well, I need to eat to feel full. I'm like, that means basically it means she's binge eating and she's on the spectrum. So it's like I already realized that it's kind of like I can't teach like I told her like I can teach her a lot of things, but I can't correct lazy. I can't correct lazy. Like if you're already someone who's like severely autistic and you're dealing with a low you're dealing with a lower intellectual capacity than average, like the average IQ is 100. But if you're dealing with below average intellectual functioning coupled with being with aut- being on the autistic spectrum, I'm just going to think that you're not of correctable. And it's like I keep telling her, it's like, look, just go for a jog every day. And then when she jogs, she overdoes it. I'm like, you don't need to overdo it. And I've told my wife and other people this too. Like, you can't bank up exercise. Like with lifting, you can do that. Cardio is not like that. You can't. It's like you can't bank up a whole week of not doing cardio by having a super day of cardio on Sunday. Like that's not how it works. You have to, like, it has to be continuous throughout the week. Like at least 3 or 4 times a week, if not, though, although it'd be better 5 or 6 times a week, but at least 3 or 4 times a week, you should be doing cardio. And then also watching the portions that you eat. And like I said, she has just a, a litany of issues between the autistic spectrum disorder, the lower intellectual functioning, clinical depression. She has, I forgot what that nervous disorder is that makes you laugh uncontrollably. Like, so she has that condition on the movie Joker. If you remember the movie The Joker in 2019, he had that involuntary laughing tick. So she has that, and then on top of that, like I said, she's just lazy, and it's like I can't correct lazy. It's that's not for me. Like I can tell you how to lose weight. I can give you a plan to lose weight. I can do the steps with you. Um, if something doesn't work, we can modify it or change things. Um, I can check up on you and make sure you're doing what you need to do. But I can't correct lazy. And it's just she's just lazy. It's like you do everything but what I've told you. And it's like and then she falls into that typical American woman trap, the fat American woman where then they just try to rationalize them being fat by saying that women in their normal BMI are skinny. I'm like, no, that woman is not skinny. She's at her appropriate BMI for her size and age. You are not. It's like you cannot call a person skinny when you are like 5'8" and 250. You're 5'8", 215 pounds, and not. And I'm like, that would be look. That would be big for a man. That would be big for a man, and 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 even if you were a bodybuilder at 5'8", 215 pounds, that would still be considered overweight. But if you're not a bodybuilder, it would just be clearly like you're fat. But for a woman, that's clinical obesity. Like to be 215, 220 pounds at 5'8" for a woman. It's like, no. I was like, she at 5'8", I was like, you should be around for a woman. She don't want to hear it, but that's like you should be around 130, 135 pounds. That would be normal. Not 215, 220. But anyway, I'm gonna get off of her. Everyone else is. No, I'm joking, but um he's Carson said facts. The wife will give you all kinds of bad advice. It's not that your wife will give you bad advice if you use her as your emotional pincushion. It's just that one, it makes you look weaker. It makes you look like a weak man if you have to kvetch to your wife. Like I'm not saying that you can't talk with her about your dreams and goals and all that sort of stuff. What I'm saying is when you're down in the dumps, you should not be coming to your wife crying and boo-hooing. Like it just makes you weak as a man in her eyes. On top of that, those things that you confided in her might be used against you in a future argument because women are emotional and they may not do it on intentionally, but when they're mad at you, they will throw things at you that you've told them. So so for those two reasons, like I said, it makes you just seem weaker in their eyes. And two, they might use that stuff against you in a future argument. It's not worth it. And then three, they can't really do anything for you. Women, when they discuss problems, they're not necessarily looking for solutions. They just want someone to hear them out. And that's what makes them feel better, which is why, like I said, psychotherapy works better for women because for them it's better to have someone hear them out. Guys, we want solutions, which is why also in psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy is the most empirical empirically supported form of scientifically supported form of psychotherapy because cognitive behavioral therapy isn't just you lying on a couch talking about your problems for an hour. In cognitive behavioral therapy, they give you things to do to improve upon your situation. And that's going to be more rewarding for a guy who actually needs solutions, not just someone to hear them talk about how much they hate their parents or their significant other or how difficult their job is. They guys typically when they complain are looking for solutions. So that's a third reason why you don't want to confide in your wife because most of the time she can't really offer you solutions. She can only empathize with you. So and again, that's not to say that you should never discuss your feelings with your wife. It just means that you shouldn't be using her as an emotional pincushion because nothing's really good going to come out of it. Carlin says, "Yeah, what they say she's big boned or being big runs in the family." Now, there's only one group of people where I know big bone is an actual thing, and that's Pacific Islander people. They do actually possess uh, thicker bone density than other racial groups. This is so their women are do tend to be thicker. They genuinely are big bone. But most people who just say they're big bone are just fat. Like I need to stop saying that word so I don't get the mindset. Most people who say they're big bone, they're just overweight, high calorie people. Because when you look, if you look at the, if you actually look at uh, I forgot what those scans are, but it can give you a density map of the person's like musculature and other um, body tissue compared to their bony tissue. And that person will have the same bone density of mass as a slender person. The difference is they carry much more they carry a much more body mass than the slender person, which means they're actually weakening their skeletal system compared to the slender person. So yeah, the whole big bone thing, like I said, unless you're talking about someone who's a Pacific Islander, Native Hawaiian, Samoan type person, um, they're they're not big bone. They're just very overweight. BMI? No, not BMI. I'm talking about uh, there's these bone density scan things. Um, I don't know what these body scans are called, but it will show you the person's body mass internally, um, and it'll show like their skeletal system compared to all their like other organic body tissue, and usually when you look at that scan, it will show you it will show you how these big overweight people how crushing their body weight is on their skeletal system because their skeletal system is not denser than a slender person. DEXA scan that's probably I think it is a DEXA scan. Uh, I can look it up, but I think it is a DEXA scan. It's not an MRI though. That's uh, DEXA scan. Um, yeah, DEXA scan, bone density tests. Yeah, I think that's what it is. But yeah, like I said, the only racial ethnic group I know that actually is big boned is Pacific Islanders. That's why you don't want to fight a Samoan. Yeah, you don't want to fight because they're all built like the Rock. They're all built like the Rock. But what point was I getting to? But yeah, like I was saying, I hate how fat people try to call everyone else skinny. So, like I used to always see black women do that. That little skinny bitch. I'm like, she's not skinny. She's the appropriate size for her height. Like, it's funny. Like I said, to an overweight woman, normal sized women are skinny. Like they're not skinny. They're normal. You're abnormal. And then or they try to rationalize it by saying, well, more people are overweight in America, so they're the new normal. I'm like, just because a lot of people are overweight doesn't make it normal, depending on what we mean by normal. If you mean a normal just as far as the average, as if they use a normal in the sense of numerical average, then yes, they're normal. But we know that they're equivocating because they're using two different senses of the term normal. They're using the term normal in the sense of a numerical average, and then putting you in a trick bag and making you think of normal in the other sense, which is what people find to be um, the 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 norm as far as a social cultural norm. So and so it's like if you got to play games to justify the fact that you are unhealthy, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Um, so that's how I see it. And it's like, and there's a lot of these women who are big guys too. So let me throw guys in here too. Pause. But there's a lot of guys and gals out there who are big folks, and they do exercise regularly. But you know what they don't do? They don't monitor what they eat. They don't monitor their portions. Even more so, these people are obese, and they do exercise. Although usually when they exercise, and they'll tell you they just like go for like a daily walk. They go for a daily walk, and maybe every once in a blue moon they hit the gym, which is true because there are a lot more people signed up to the gym than people who actually go. This is why owning a gym is such a great. If I had the money, I would probably open a gym because that would be a great franchise. It just makes sense. Like the average Planet Fitness lo- location, wherever you are, probably has about 10,000 members. But those Planet Fitness can't even hold 10,000 members there, which shows how little people actually go there. The only time you'll see half of that amount of people is when it's New Year, New Me bullshit. Everyone right after New Year's comes in, and for about three, this is the bane of everyone who goes to the gym. They know right after New Year's for the next 3 weeks, you're gonna have all these little losers coming in there pretending they're gonna change their life and dedicate their life to being fit. And it's gonna last about 2 or 3 weeks, and then they're gonna fall off and go watch football like they normally do. The women are gonna go watch Real Housewives like they normally do. uh, Connor says they need zone 2 and 3 cardio to burn extra weight. Like, and like I was telling my client, because she would try to say, well, I'm gonna just walk instead of running or whatever. That's gonna be my cardio. I was like, walking is not cardio. I was like, yes, walking is a is genuine exercise, but it's not cardio. It's not. It's not cardio. And I told her I was like, if you, cardio is either going to be you consistent of you running, um, planking, rowing, jump roping. Um, then she says swimming, and I was like, yeah, swimming can be cardio, but that's only if you're doing laps, consistent laps back and forth. Like if you, I was like, if your big ass is just sitting there in the water, that's not cardio. I'm sorry. If you just sitting in the water looking like a sea cow, that's not cardio. Like swimming only counts as cardio if you're actually consistently doing laps back and forth the whole time you're in the pool. It doesn't consist of you just sitting there chilling in the pool looking like Kung Fu Panda. So I was like, but why not just do running? And it's like, this is why I brought up the trainer in the gym, is because you you could lose weight and be healthy without even spending money, but beyond just having some sneakers, like buying some good running sneakers. Other than buying some running sneakers, you don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to pay a personal trainer. Now I can understand going to the gym during the winter months because not everyone's going to be dedicated like me where they're going to go run in the cold. I'll run in the cold. I don't care. I've ran in every Arctic storm we've had for the past 12 years. And it's not going to change this winter either. Um, but that's not for everyone, and that's cool. That's why you should have the gym membership at somewhere like Planet Fitness, where it's open 24 hours. So if you have an irregular work schedule, like a lot of people do, fine, you go there whenever you want. And the treadmills are almost always open because there's more treadmills in Planet Fitness and these other casual fitness gyms than there are weights. Now, if you go to like a actual gym for lifters, then it's going to be mostly all weights. But places like Planet Fitness are casual or for like casual fitness goers. So the majority of stuff there is cardio equipment. So it's like there's no excuse. Like you, you can run outside, or you can just pay $15 a month, less than what most people pay for lunch every day. And for $15 a month, you have access to all this equipment, treadmills. It's like there's no excuse. There's really no excuse. Running is free. Exactly. Running is free. Says I tell people not to wait for the new year, but to start now. I tell people that the same thing, man. I always say, look, if like if it's worth um if it's worth making a New Year's resolution to do, then why wait until New Year's? Why not start it right now? Like if you wanna like if you wanna stop smoking, don't wait till New Year's. Do it today. If you decide you wanna pack on some muscle, don't wait till New Year's. Do it now. You know, go get you some creatine. If you don't have a gym membership, get a gym membership. Or if you're not comfortable working out in the gym, buy some. You can buy some equipment to work with at home, or you could just do body weight exercises. You can put on muscle through body weight exercise if you do it correctly. Um, if you just want to be fit, running is free, and like I said, it is the king of exercises for a reason. Again, like I told my client, I was like, why do you think almost every sport to stay in shape they they uh, require their practitioners to run, like whether you're talking about martial arts, you're running, you playing basketball or football or baseball or soccer, you run, gymnastics, like almost every professional sport you got to run. Why? Because is the best thing to keep you in shape. Carter says in my gym the treadmills are mostly empty. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like everyone is waiting for the like you go to the gym, everyone's waiting for the bench press, the squat rack, the leg press. Like everyone's like hovering around these, you know, usually and usually even when people on the treadmill, most of them aren't on there for 20 minutes, more than 20 minutes. I've been on there the to the I've been on the treadmill so long it cuts off after a while. Like I guess it depends on which ones you're at. Um, some of them naturally like cut off after an hour. I'm like, come on, like why is it cutting off after an hour? I'm still. I was like, man, this sucks. Because I was trying to get in my, get in my 6 or 7 miles, and it cut off right at 6 miles. I'm like, dang. I don't even reach. I don't know if I even reached six because I was, running kind of. I was running slowly, but yeah, most people don't stay on it for like longer than 10 or 20 minutes. So even if it was a wait, you wouldn't be waiting long. Only time I seen a long wait on a treadmill is when girls get on there and they just sit there taking selfies while they on the treadmill. I don't see honestly, I don't see that as much here, but that used to be a big thing in the Philippines. Like at my condo gym, like it would be a bunch of girls and they just taking pictures on the treadmill. I'm like, you get the hell off the treadmill so I can run. And it's like I could see in the Philippines, I can't do outside runs because there's no sidewalks and the streets are full of traffic, so it would be unsafe to, to try to weave through traffic running. Now in the provinces that would be fine, but I was in Metro Manila. Metro Manila, it was hard to do that. In the province I could probably just run through the streets, but the side they rarely have sidewalks, and when they do it's inconsistent. It'll be like a bit of sidewalk for like one block, then the sidewalk is gone. um so you're walking between like on the street or like right around someone's store or residence or whatever. It's weird. The infrastructure definitely needs more improvement over there. If that was like one major complaint. I mean, I could complain about a lot of stuff in the Philippines, but I still love the place. But one of the things is that it's kind of inconvenient to walk around sometimes because again you're going to be walking in the street. There's really inconsistent sidewalks unless you're in the really nice areas like BGC or parts of Makati or to 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 what's it Tagate or whatever. Well, anyway, yeah. So when I'm over there, I have to use the treadmill because, like I said, I can't really run outside, and you'll have all these women just sitting there flexing on the treadmill. I'm like, if you don't get your ass off the treadmill so I can run. Colin says calisthenics. Yeah, so humans are built to run. No, we're literally built to run. That's another thing I always tell people. Like we literally evolved as distance runners. Like that is how prehistoric humans caught their prey was through running their prey to exhaustion. It's called what's that term? But that's a form of hunting that early humans mastered. Let's look that up. I can't. I always forget the name of that term. But we would run big prey until they collapse from exhaustion or over a cliff or hill or something, then you know, harvested their meat. persistence hunting. That's what it was called. Yeah, the theory of persistent hunting suggests that humans evolved to chase down prey until the prey could no longer run. This practice, known as endurance pursuit, has been supported by research that shows that running can be more efficient than walking for pursuing prey. The study of ethnographic records and computer modeling indicates that in terms of energy expenditure, running can be more efficient than walking for pursuing prey. This suggests that endurance running would have been a valuable hunting technique for our ancestors. That comes straight from Smithsonian Magazine, so this is not like some sketchy like source of information. That comes from Smithsonian Magazine, and this has been well documented amongst other amongst people studying um, cultural anthropology and paleobiology, stuff like that. So we literally evolved to be distance runners because as distance runners, we were able to do persistent hunting to catch our prey. It's not like we were that strong, nor were we that fast. We didn't have natural weapons like big teeth and huge talons. So that's so what did people do? We ran. And there's and the it looks like long distance running, we may have evolved to do that, which may have affected actually like how we are, like our modern day brains. That's kind of that's pretty cool when you think about it. And this is why I tell people like when they sometimes people see me run, they be like, I wish I could do that. And sometimes I'll just laugh because like I'm in the midst of running, but I want to say, but you can, you really can. It's like they're comparing me, someone who's a an amateur runner who's been running for like since off and on since high school to someone who hasn't ran since high school. And it's like, you can do this too if you practice it. I wasn't this good. You're seeing me at my, you're seeing me at my Super Saiyan form, but you didn't see me before I reached the Super Saiyan form of running. Like I would have been just as um, bad at it as anyone else in the beginning stages. So I remember this lady saw me running. This was like a month ago. No, or 2 months ago. She's like, I wish I could do that. And I was like, huh, like that. Cause I wanted to say, but you can. The only reason I didn't is because I'm not trying to hold a conversation. Cause as soon as I say, but you can, I'm gonna have to stop and have like a brief conversation with this person or whatever. I don't want to, I'm not trying to, ruin my running pace, not to be, you know, not to sound, I don't think, hopefully I don't sound like a jerk, but yeah, if I'm in the midst of running, like I don't want to stop and tell people how they can do what I'm doing because it's like they can look it up for themselves, but it's like I'm not doing anything fantastic. I'm not what's the guy who broke the Guinness World Record? This this Sudanese guy or Somalian guy. I can't remember if he's Somalian or Sudanese, but you know what I'm talking about, the world world record holder. Like I'm not that guy. I'm just a regular amateur runner. It's like anyone can do it, but like I said, when people only see you at your Super Saiyan stage of whatever you're doing, whether it be a sport, whether it be intellectual pursuit, like they think it's completely closed off to them because they're comparing themselves, who would be a beginner, to someone who's advanced or an expert. So Carl said your treadmill said that's enough for you today, buddy. No, so I think I don't know if the treadmill was like one of the ones that's programmed to stop at a certain point, or if it sometimes when you get on the treadmill, I think um, there's already a program. There's already you can how the treadmills you can plug in a program that you want to run for that day, like um, a certain amount of distance or a certain amount of time, or that you want a certain amount of like resistance and all that sort of stuff. So I think what happened was I was getting on treadmills, and when I was hitting a button, I was hitting the pre-programmed run on it. That's why it will only let me run, but for so long, and it cut off because I think I was hitting one of the pre-programmed workouts on there, and I think that's why it cut off because it happened like twice. But when I went another time, that didn't happen. So I'm like, oh, okay, so it had to been um, it had to have been like some pre-programmed workout. He said, Carlos says they have wild tigers in the Philippines. No, no, I don't think. See, that would be a better question for my wife. But as far as I know, there's no tigers in the Philippines. There are wild cats in the Philippines, but they um no tigers. They don't even have bears either. No lions, tigers, or bears in the in the Philippines. They have much other. They have well, they have other deadly animals though. They also have their own eagle. The and I'm gonna just say it. The Philippine eagle is cooler than the American bald eagle because the Philippine eagle has like a little crown, like a this little sort of like little I don't know, like this little crown mullet type thing on it on his head. So, but they have the Philippine eagle. I'm trying to think. Um, it was something there. I forgot what I was asking her about. I was like, "Do they have these here in the Oh, monkeys. So they do have Philippine monkeys, but they're not um they're not local to the Manila area. So never had to worry about that. Now, when I was in Bali, the the monkeys were local. So I remember I slept outside one day because the first night I came there, it was me, my wife, and my mom, and my mom's place wasn't ready yet at the homestay we were at. So she stayed in our lodging, and I said, you guys can take the bed. She was like, we can share. I'm like, no, I slept outside because it felt so good. Um, because we had it, our little homestay. We had our own little patio or whatever you want to call it with a table and all that, so we could eat breakfast there. Because they gave us breakfast every day. So we could eat breakfast there, or we could just come downstairs from our unit to eat. But when I found out we could just eat right there at our room, that was perfect. Like I swear I could have lived there. It was that little homestay was so nice, and that was one of the cheaper ones. They like there's way more like expensive ones there, but will still be like relatively cheap for us. Um, but yeah, I slept outside, and the only thing I was worried about was I didn't want some sort of weird sort of bug, some sort of weird bug or lizard or something to bite me. And then when I realized that Monkey Street was very close to us in Ubud, because this was in Ubud, Bali, I was like, yeah. I was like, I said, I hope a monkey won't like just climb up and like mess with me or something. I don't know. But I was fine outside, you know. But yeah, The only thing I know, like this, so they got like monkeys and stuff like that in the Philippines. No lions, tigers, or bears. Oh my. um, because his other animals are faster, but we can run for longer. Yeah, so we're built for distance running, which is why when we run, we can keep an even our eyesight, like our eyesight. Like it's funny, like everything we do when we run, we take for granted because we've evolved to do it. But if people realize that most animals can't do what we do when we run, they will realize this that this is something that we've evolved to do. Like most people, when they think of what traits like the like evolutionary traits of humans, they think of our ability for uh for computational thought, um and our and our adapt like so that's one of our adaptive traits is yes, computational thought, as well as natural human language. But another thing is distance running. There's a few other animals that can do it, but there's not very many, to be honest. And like I said, it's taken for granted what we can do. When we run, we don't lose our eyesight. Other animals cannot run for us, for an extended period of time because it would one they will like they won't maintain their kinesthetic balance. Um, their eyesight won't remain steady. Um, they don't have uh, they don't have the aerobic lung capacity for it. Um, but yeah, and with the way our feet are designed, are for running, like we kind of take it for granted how easy it is for us. Granted, like I know that not everyone can, like not everyone, not so not everyone does run, but everyone can run. You know, sort of like like language and stuff like that, and like everyone can utilize human speech, but not, of course, because of speech pathology, not everyone does. So, but yeah, it 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 is. Uh, People need to see that running is a defining human trait. We didn't evolve to be on horseback. That's just something we utilize because it's useful. He said, "Yep, on video, yeah." Um, but yeah, like I said, I wish I could correct. And another friend, same thing with him. Like he's been trying to lose weight for a long time. I told him I was like, man, just go run. He's like, yeah, I know I should. If you know you should, then just do it. And I think what deters people from doing it, I it might be laziness on his part, but I think another thing is so when people are already obese, something that happens is they often suffer like minor injuries that will deter them from continuing, like shin splints or back pain, um, or just feeling really exhausted, stuff like that. And I always tell them, like, you don't have to do that much. It's like, just go run for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And it's like, I, every novice runner wants to do too much. Like, they want to get out there and automatically just do 3, 4 miles. I'm like, no. And I always tell beginners, look, run for time, don't run for distance. You should be running for time, not for distance. And I was like, I was like, you don't have to run the entire time. I was like, run for 5 minutes. Then you can spend the next 15 minutes walking. Just do that. Or if you have, or because if you're a busy person and you lack time, I get that too. People are busy. Again, just run for 5 or 10 minutes. And I was like, running 5 or 10 minutes is better. Uh, Running 5 or 10 minutes every day would be better than running for like 2 hours just just on Sunday. I was like, you're not banking up aerobic I was like, you can't bank up aerobic capacity in the way you can with lifting. Like lifting is different. So with lifting, you can depending on your schedule, you can do things different ways. Like you can do like um you can hit every body, you can hit every like major muscle group um and do that like twice a week. Um you can like 2 or 3 times a week. You can just do both upper and lower body 2 or 3 times a week. But then once you become more savvy, you realize, oh, I can break this up. Um, and then you might have upper body day, lower body day. And then if you work out like 5, 6 times a week, lifting, then you not only are you doing upper and lower, but like you have different stuff. Like you might just concentrate on um, like chest and arms on 1 or 2 days, you know, back and I don't know, like back and stomach another day, legs another day, and break it up. Like so you can do it those different ways. And no matter how you do it, like if you just want to work out just once or twice a week lifting and just you just do a full body workout, you can do that and it will work. But you can't do that with running. And I don't think some people understand that when it comes to running. Like you can't have one super day of running make up for like 6 days of not doing anything. It it doesn't work that way. Like I said, it works that way for lifting. It doesn't work that way for running because people don't realize within 72 hours you start losing your VO2 max. Um, in other words, in other words, to put it in layman's terms, after after 3 days of no running, you lose your endurance. If you have a longer gap than 3 days between running, but between cardio, you start losing that endurance. So it's like if if you built up to a certain level of VO2 max, you're gonna lose it if you're not doing it continuously throughout the week. But that's something I always see peculiar in the Philippines is because some people's work life balance is out of skew because a lot of them work in call centers, overnight. And I always tell my wife, look, it's better to just do 5 or 10 minutes of running or cardio every day than for you to wait until Saturday and Sunday and do like an hour of running. Like I was like, that doesn't make up for the 5 or 6 other days that you didn't do anything because that's that's not how that's not how cardiovascular health works. So Colin says, "Yep, run for time and slowly build up." Yeah, I mean that's how I did it. Like I said, when I was, after I came out of high school, I hadn't ran for like uh, almost 2 years, about year and a half. And then when I tried, I ran with a friend who was also like a martial arts guy as well. We ran and then, like we ran like sprints, and I threw I threw up right afterwards. He's like, "Oh yeah," he said, "There you go." He said, "Get it out your system." And so I realized, wow, I'm really bad because I had ran track briefly in high school. So I knew I could do better than that. I knew I shouldn't have been like. I knew I was out of shape. The fact that we had did some sprints and some kicking exercises, and I threw up because I was so out of shape. This is before I went into the army, and so luckily I did this before I went into the army. I developed my endurance because I bought like a running magazine at the time, and it said how to start, and I followed this one program how to develop your 21-minute run. And so I did what it said, just, do a combination of running and walking for 21 minutes. Just keep doing that every day until you can build up where you can run the whole 21 minutes without walking. That's what I did. And I usually tell other people to do the same thing. Across the chest, triceps, back, and biceps. Yeah. Yeah, there's many different ways you can do. You can do like chest and triceps, back and biceps. Some people might do chest and I mean, sorry, some people might do uh, back and waist. There's many different ways you can do it. Some might just do. Then, like I said, if you lifting like 6 or 7 days a week, because some people are in the gym like every day, they start to they start to focus. Like they'll be like, all right, arms. It won't just be arms. It'll be like triceps, shoulders, chest, something like that. Maybe like biceps, uh, trapezoids, lats. Like I said, the ones who are in there like 6 or 7 days a week, they get really specific. So, Cardinal says Greg Doucette, the bodybuilder, does full body workouts twice a week and cardio every day. Yeah, and then the funny thing is, it's always the gym bros saying you shouldn't do cardio, not knowing that Arnold Schwarzenegger regularly ran. He like he told people he regularly ran as a bodybuilder. On top of that, Arnold is the definitive gym bro because he started off as a power lifter before he was a bodybuilder, which meant he was genuinely strong. He wasn't just his lifting wasn't just aesthetic. Um, on top of that, unlike modern day bodybuilders, he didn't use all those different PEDs that they have. Like he did use steroids. All of them did back then. He admitted it, but he said we didn't use all these dangerous like designer PEDs that they have out now. Which yeah, they give you these guys are way more built than the classic bodybuilders of the 70s, 60s, 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, but they are much less healthier than those guys. Like the extremes they do, like you shouldn't have like 20 ripples in your ass as a bodybuilder. That just looks weird. Like I remember looking at the muscle and fitness magazines um, back in the 90s and the extremes these people were going to in bodybuilding. It just looked grotesque. But yeah, Arnold Arnold ran. He said he ran as a bodybuilder, and he said when he was off season, he ran even more when he was like he ran as when he was competing, and he said he ran even more when he was not competing. Like between his competitions, he would run more regularly, but he stayed running. So it's always funny that these gym bros are talking about always talk about you shouldn't do cardio. I'm like you guys, it's like that's how they don't know anything about fitness because they don't realize like they would look like it would improve both their fitness and their physique if they ran. Like if Arnold can run, why can't you? Who are you to challenge someone who was Mr. Olympia 7 times? Like how are you going to tell someone not to run when you didn't reach what he's done? He was both a competitive power lifter and a 7-time Mr. Olympia. So Carlos says I'm one of those everyday people. Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, whatever people want to do, I just tell people to stay fit. If people just want to lift weights, that's fine. I just hate when people pretend that lifting is gonna make you physically fit. Like now, I was telling you that lifting alone is not gonna make you physically fit. Like you still have to put in the cardio and like gym bros, cardio's their kryptonite. Carlin says, yeah, these bodybuilders now look bad. Yeah, but like I said, even in the '90s, they used to look bad because, like, when I was a teenager and I used to buy the Muscle and Fitness magazines, um, I remember there was one that had like a one of Bruce Lee's workouts in it. His workouts were actually grueling. I mean, not for the amount of weight he was putting up, but for how much he was doing in one workout. It's intense. And he was doing this without any sort of performance enhancing drugs at the time. I think the only thing I knew that he did, I think he occasionally might use hash or hashish. I think he ate hashish cookies, or he may have even smoked hashish, or put it in, or had like cannabis tea or something like that. And I think that was just to help him unwind and relax. Carlton says Jim Bros believe cardio will steal their gains. Yeah, that's what they always say, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Cardio is not going to steal your gains. Like, is doing you like they because what they see is they see the guys who are just stamina athletes like me and say I don't want to look like him because he's small. But the thing is, when I was lifting, I was still running every day, and I was still getting compliments on on my physique. So it's like if I can run every day and I'm lifting and I look just as good as you, if not better, then obviously lifting isn't going to steal my gains. And it's like it shows they don't know what they're talking about because, like I said, if 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 Arnold is a Mr. Olympia, a 7-time Mr. Olympia, and he runs, what is their excuse? And I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty sure Arnold wasn't the only one running. I'm pretty sure probably Lou Ferrigno did as well, and his other buddy, because the three of them used to compete against each other, and all of them were multiple Mr. Olympias at back in that time in the '70s and early '80s. I forgot the small guy, Franco. Uh, I think I'm trying to think. What's his name? Franco Colombo, but it was Lou Ferrigno, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I think Franco Colombo, whatever his name was. All of them were multiple times Mr. Olympia. They used to come. They were they were strong rivals. They were good friends, but they were also strong rivals. Like that, anytime I hear Jim Bro say um, cardio is going to rob, steal their gains, I know they're a moron. Carlin says Bruce Lee was shredded. Yeah, his problem was he couldn't keep on body weight consistently, and that's often because he didn't always eat enough. So he would like sometimes use protein shakes. Unfortunately, he didn't live in a time where he would have had the ability to use things like creatine and stuff like that. Because I'm pretty sure he would have been using creatine and stuff, the stuff we have today. And I don't think the protein shakes were of the quality back then that they have now. With like, I'm not sure if they. Someone can tell me if I'm wrong, an older person, but I don't think they had like whey protein, like quality whey protein back in like the early '70s when he was bodybuilding, well not bodybuilding when he was lifting. On top of the hot heat of places like Hong Kong, but um, his his strength his strength to size ratio was pretty phenomenal. Uh, I forgot to adjust my chat filter, but there it is. Yeah, yeah. Uh, Bruce's strength to size ratio was phenomenal. So if you adjust for your own weight for his workout routine, it is pretty intense. And he had different ones because he was always modifying his workout routines. So at some point he was trying to, at one point his workout routine was geared towards bulking up. Then another one was for him to be more cut. Like in his final years of life, I think he has switched to like a workout that was going to make him look um, give him more definition as opposed to bulking up. And he really started using instead of free weights, he was like emphasizing using like the cable pulleys and stuff like that. Like I guess whatever would have been like the equivalent of like Nautilus equipment back then. I think he was preferring that like with all the cable exercises. So like remember like the Bowflex back in the 90s to replace the Nordiflex, but like something like the Bowflex or stuff like that. He would have probably liked something like that. Carmen says they had real food back then, no protein powder needed. Well, no, he used protein powder because, like I said, he had such an intense workout, and sometimes he was saying that, or at least Linda, his ex wife Linda Lee Caldwell was saying that she didn't always have access to like premium cuts of meat when they were together because they were struggling financially, so they often couldn't he often didn't have enough to eat to bulk up, so he would use protein powders. I remember she said there was one story when they were living in Hong Kong, and he bragged to his Chinese side of his family about how good Linda's spaghetti was, and so she felt pressured to make some really good spaghetti for the whole family. But the problem was in Hong Kong, she didn't have access to the ingredients that she needed to make spaghetti the way she would back in the U.S. And so she did as good as she said she did as good as she could with the limited ingredients that she could find in the markets at that time. I don't think today that would be a problem because now with free trade and international markets, you can pretty much find it in any major city. You can pretty much find the stuff that you will want in America, unless you're in a if unless you're in some sort of uh, communist place, which Hong Kong wasn't at the time. Hong Kong was still a territory belonging to the British at the time, and didn't get handed over to uh, mainland China until 1997. And even then, originally, the agreement was that um, even when Hong Kong was returned from Britain to China in 1997, that it would not be it would not be under the laws of mainland China for at least 50 years. But that kind of changed back in 2019 after the protests and stuff like that, and they enacted the national security law, which basically brought Hong Kong under the laws of mainland China, which meant, you know, you know, if when it comes to the law and all that sort of stuff, you would be tried in a court in mainland China instead of under the separate Hong Kong. rules, the Hong Kong SAR, Special Autonomous Region type thing, where they had different. Basically, they had different. They were two systems, one country. So, in those semi-autonomous regions, the laws were different than mainland China, and China when well mainland China considers Taiwan a special autonomous region, although Taiwan prefers to say no, they are a sovereign country. I won't delve into that here just because I don't want to get demonetized by YouTube. Because when people talk about issues in the sinosphere, it can get them demonetized. But Hong Kong wasn't the only semi-autonomous region. Also, I think Macau is as well, or was. Macau was like the gambling capital of the world. But yeah, they did have real food back then. But like I said, the problem was that Bruce and Linda were often poor because Bruce was an actor, and as a Chinese man in the 60s and 70s, he often couldn't get lead parts. Um, Even today, a lot of Asian men cannot get lead parts in films. Now, Asian women often can. They're often be the love interest of a non-Asian man, and that pisses Asian men off a lot. I'm pretty sure, but what can you do? Carter says Bruce had to be at least 8% or lower body fat. Yeah, I think he was lower than that. Uh, like I said, it got like at some points, like it got dangerous. Like he had lost a lot of weight. Like he was about 5'7", 135 pounds, but he couldn't even consistently keep that 135 pounds. But what I will say is his strength, like I said, his strength to size ratio was phenomenal for his. Despite his small size, he was quite powerful. Like he could fight. He, I mean, he could fight bigger men. When I mean fight, I don't mean like in the ring, of course, but when it came to like street fights, like his friend Dan Inosanto often mentioned how he might get into like a traffic what do you call it car, I don't know what you call it, car rage or something like that, and like he'd get out and have to fight someone on the road, get back in the car and leave, like because people always say today, well, he wasn't a real fighter. Yes and no. I mean, the problem with street fights is you can't verify them. But uh, if someone's not a fighter, there is another way you can verify that what they know is legit is that they train fighters. Bruce may not have been a professional fighter, but he trained professional fighters, and that's saying something. Akron says I saw Bruce Lee doing push-ups on his fingers, super strong. Yeah, I've done those too. Like I've done the push-ups on my thumbs, but he used to also do a one-arm push-ups on two fingers. I saw this guy do that before too, but he was like a smaller guy than me. Not that I'm big myself, pause, but um, this guy was like more compact, and I saw him doing it. I was like, yo, that's. I was like, that's phenomenal. I had to give him his props. He did the one where he did the push-ups on one hand with two fingers, just like Bruce Lee. I was like, wow, I never saw anyone do that outside of seeing Bruce Lee do it. So to see this guy do that in real time was pretty cool. Um, but um, like I said, he also did lifted weights. He did the cable pulleys. He he had a friend named George Lee who used to actually make him his own would make him his own training equipment. Like this guy, I think because his friend George Lee was actually an engineer. I think he was like a mechanical engineer or something of the sort. And this guy used to personally like uh, create training equipment for Bruce, or he would take like regular training equipment and configure it to Bruce Lee specifications, um, like a training dummy, stuff like that. So, um, and I think the weight machine he had at the time, I think was something that was specifically built for him. I don't think it was like something, uh, because the editor for the Bruce Lee estate, this guy named Dr. John Little, he wrote several books about Bruce with the blessing of the Bruce Lee estate, and he talked about his training methods, and he related in the book that uh, Bruce's widow Linda Lee Caldwell gave him the weight machine because she asked because he asked her could he have it, and she said, what are you going to use it? She's like, are you going to sell it or are you going to actually use it? He's like, no, I want to actually use it. So she's like, sure, you can have it. So she gave him the weight machine. Like I said, this was a weight machine built specifically for uh, for Bruce's specifications by a former friend of his who was an engineer named George Lee, not related to him. Carlin says Bruce Lee was honorary FBA. Black folks loved him. My mom said she had a crush on him. I remember a girl in school told me she had a crush on him. This girl named Aisha. I think she liked me too. um, his first student was a black guy, a guy named Jesse Glover, seafood. Well, for me, seafood Jesse Glover. I should be respectful. Um, Jesse was his first student. He was a black guy when Bruce first started out. They went to high school together because Bruce Lee, uh, I think he finished his senior year of high school here in the states, um, in Seattle. So they were students together and became friends. And Bruce started teaching them. He was his first student. He, I think he stayed with Bruce through his first era of his martial art when he was just basically just teaching a modified form of Wing Chun. And I think Jesse may have stayed on even to when he started teaching his own personalized style Jun Fan Gung Fu. Hey Agatha, what's going on? But yeah, a lot of black folks loved him because even though he had died, all his films started coming to America after Enter the Dragon became a Hollywood success. So then they dubbed his films and brought them here you know, after Enter the Dragon, which is why they have different titles. This is why Way of the Dragon here was called Return of the Dragon because it came out here in the states after Enter the Dragon, although it was made uh, a year prior to Enter the Dragon. But yeah, I remember my uncle telling me they all loved his movies as a teenager. He told me, I think I can't remember if it was my uncle or my father. I think it was my uncle, but he told me like when the TV show The Green Hornet came out, he said everyone watched The Green Hornet just to see Bruce Lee. They didn't care about The Green Hornet. They wanted to watch to see Kato, Bruce Lee as Kato. Carlin says the yellow and black tracksuit Bruce Lee wore. Yeah, that's yeah, that's iconic. That is so iconic. Like that's been used in several other movies. Um, remember after Bruce died and his movies came out, people were still clamoring for Bruce, and that's when the Bruce exploitation films came out. You had a whole bunch of these um, actors from Korea and Taiwan who resembled Bruce Lee making these films, basically looking like Bruce Lee. It was a guy named Bruce Lee with his name spelled Li. There was a guy named Dragon Lee. Um, there was another guy. It was funny because like I said, not all of them were even Chinese. Like I said, I think one or two of them was Korean, but it was all these little Bruce exploitation films in the late '70s up until the early '80s. What year did Bruce Lee start making movies? Uh, well, do you mean the movies he's known for now? Because he actually started making he actually started in films as a child when he was in Hong Kong. These black and white films in Hong Kong back in the 50s. Uh, so he his family was sort of wealthy. Like um, his father was a trained Chinese opera performer, and I think his mother's background they were wealthy. I think so. He starred in, I don't know how old he was, but he was in movies as far back as when he was a kid. I think like 8 or 9, something like that. But as an adult, um, when he started making films, well, he he's first starting some stuff in America. So, he did Kato in the Green Hornet, which was a TV show that was produced by the same people who produced the 1960s Batman, that TV show. I think it was produced by the same people. They even had a crossover episode with Batman and Green Hornet, and both Robin and Bruce Lee and well, Robin and Kato fought each other. Um, but it only lasted 1 year. Then the movie, the show Kung Fu was originally supposed to be Bruce Lee. Like that, he actually made had the idea for that TV show, but they said he looked too Asian for the part because he is Asian. So they gave it to David Carradine, who was a white guy who happened to look a little Asian because he has slanted eyes, but he was a white man. So they gave the part to him, even though the idea of the show was literally made by Bruce Lee. This is why when the Kung Fu movie came out, they used his son in the movie since it was originally supposed to be about uh, idea developed by Bruce Lee. Um, he oh, so I think the first movie he starred in after he as an adult, I think it was Marlowe, or let me look it up. Might have been Marlowe. First Bruce Lee movie. So yeah, his first movie was Golden Gate Girl, and I think he might have been a baby in that movie actually. Yeah, that was in 19 wow 41. Yeah, that was in 1941. I think he was still a baby in that movie. So that was his very first movie. Um, I might have to put on my glasses to see all this. But yeah, his first movie was in 1941. I guess you could just calculate because he died at the age of 32 in 1973. I was going to watch that Frankenstein movie. I guess I have to watch it tomorrow. It's too late now. But yeah, his first movie was 1941, Golden Gate Girl. The one I remember him in as a kid was one called The Kid, and I think that was in 1950. And even back then, he had the mannerisms that we know of today when he does, those little mannerisms. He like that sort of thing. Like, well, look at my young Shijo. That means founder, founding teacher, founding father, whatever, however that gets translated. But yeah, his first movie, he was a baby. And I think it's available on Turner Classic Movies, by the way, too. But let me look up his first American movie. So I think that's probably what you mean. But his first actual movie was Golden Gate Girl, which was in 1941. I think his first American movie was Marlowe. Oh, okay, I was right. Yeah, it was Marlowe. His first American movie was Marlowe. That starred that was starring James Garner, whom he used to actually teach as well. James Garner was a student of his for a little while. He used to teach celebrities to pay the bills. Like one celebrity had told him, like, "Hey, you can make a lot of money teaching martial arts to celebrities." He's like, "What you do is," he said, "you got to charge them a lot of money because celebrities think the more expensive something is, the more um, more worthwhile it is," which is kind of a lesson to me because I think I definitely undercharge people for my services, whether as a life coach or as a fitness coach. The client that I have clearly doesn't appreciate what I do for her because um, she takes for granted how cheaply I charge her for it, which I won't put on here, but very cheap, very cheap. And I think I do myself a disservice dealing with someone who's psychotic and not charging them enough money to deal with all the mental stress they give me. Yeah, his first American movie was Marlowe. That was in 1969. So that was his first movie as an adult, I believe, was Marlowe. And then when it came to his movies in Hong Kong as an adult, when he moved back to Hong Kong, um, his first movie was The Big Boss. which was filmed in Thailand. Just funny, it was filmed in Thailand, but none of the people he fought did Muay Thai in the movie, even though he incorporated Muay Thai into his martial art, or at least what he understood to be Muay Thai at the time. I don't think he ever got to see a live fight. Um, but yeah, he started making movies in 1941 when he was still an infant. But um, then as a kid, his first movie was in a movie called The Kid. And that was 1950 some 1950. And then his first American movie when he became an adult was in 1969. I guess it's wow, a long time I wasn't even born. Yeah, I don't think any of us were. Um, Carlin says I did not like David Carradine Kung Fu with those slow ass kicks. I tried to get into the show. It was too boring. Like even as a even back then when I could watch stuff like that, I could not I could not get into the show. It was just so the show. I'm sorry, the show was boring. The show was boring, and David Carradine had like no personality in that show. Now, what I did like back in the '90s, they had a Kung Fu. The saga continues, which was a much older David Carradine now as a uh, as a Shaolin priest back in America, and he has a son who's a cop. Now that was a decent show at the time, although I probably wouldn't watch it today now. Um, but yeah, they had I had rather watch Kung Fu the Saga Continues than to watch the original from the '60s. It was just that show was just way too slow and boring. Like it would be like it was like the show was like an hour long and it would be like 5 minutes of action, 10 minute, 5 minutes of action, 10 minutes of him like having these little flashbacks to when he was training back in China, um, and then 45 minutes of just like a slow build up. It yeah, I did not like that show. It was boring. It would have been better with Bruce in it. Like even if there was very little action in it, the fact that if Bruce Lee had starred in it, it would have still been good because he has more charisma than David Carradine. David Carradine always talks like he's reading off of a script. Like I thought, like it was funny. That's what disappointed me because I thought he was talking that. I think he was affecting that sort of speech to make himself sound more like an Asian immigrant type, and that's not even normally how he talks. When I've seen him in other movies, like he doesn't even talk that way, but he was talking that way in that show to like basically imitate the speech of a Chinese immigrant, and it was corny. I just thought the original Kung Fu series was corny. It was boring. It was slow. David Carradine couldn't fight because he wasn't a professional martial artist at the time. He was a dancer. He was a professional dancer and actor. Carlin says martial law from Tekken was based on Bruce Lee and a lot of other video game characters. Yeah, Double Dragon, the Billy and I forgot the two brothers, but the two brothers from Double Dragon, they're based on Bruce Lee. Um, Fei Long in Street Fighter, he's based off of Bruce Lee. Um, what's his name from Mortal Kombat? He's based off of Bruce Lee. Um, what's his name? Um, But yeah, it, Bruce Lee has inspired a lot of uh, video game characters, movies, TV shows, uh, professional fighters. Yeah. Did he ever live in the U.S.? Yeah, that's what I was. He was born in San Francisco, and then because his father was a traveling again he was a traveling Chinese opera performer, and they went back to Hong Kong. He came back to the states when he was 18 and finished high school in Seattle, Washington. Um, then after graduating, he went on to go to college at the University of Washington, where he majored in philosophy. He dropped out his junior year, I think probably because Linda Lee, his wife, Linda Lee, had got pregnant at the time, and so they got married and had had Brandon, and he started teaching martial arts to pay the bills. That he tried to get into acting, and he had some success, but it was hard for a Chinese actor to get into starring roles back then. That's why I don't like that movie Quentin Tarantino did, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because it was very unrealistic to show Bruce Lee as this Bruce Lee can be cocky when it came to martial arts, but to say that he was like on films, like he was on film sets thinking he was like this larger than life persona, he did not have that larger than life persona back then because he had very limited Hollywood opportunities. So he that his, his portrayal in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was very inaccurate. I guess his Return of the Dragon was that. Yeah, you must have just came in before all Carlton and I just discussed this because this is every like this is literally what we were just talking about like 5 minutes ago. Yeah, Return of the Dragon was it was released. That movie was released as Return of the Dragon here in the states because people here in the states didn't see him in any movies aside from Marlowe, before Into the Dragon came out. That came out in 1973, but he died 2 weeks before the release of the film that made him a commercial success. And so after Into the Dragon did well, they released his other Hong Kong movies that he did, but they retitled them for an American audience. So Way of the Dragon became Return of the Dragon because again, Into the Dragon in American theaters came out first. Then you had Chinese Connection, uh, The Big Boss. Then there was Game of Death, which was actually an unfinished movie that he was working on at that time, I believe in Thailand. And so they decided to finish most of the film using a stunt double, and it was just horribly done because the guy didn't look anything like him. And there was a one particular part in the movie where they just put his face on a mirror when the guy was talking to him. It was just horrible. Like the only part of him in the movie was like the last 10 minutes when he fought Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was Lou Alcindor. No, I think he already changed his name to Kareem at the time, who was actually a good family friend of his and a student. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, this Korean Hapkido guy, and he fought his friend Dan Inosanto in that movie. But most of the filming wasn't finished, so they finished up the movie and changed the storyline, just to produce it. So that was another movie that came out. And then after Game of Death, there was a release of all these so-called Bruce exploitation films, which were a bunch of actors who looked like Bruce Lee that starred in these little films to basically take advantage of people's uh, enthrallment with Bruce Lee at the time. So it was like dozens of these little fake Bruce Lee films that came out at the time called, and then now they're called Bruce exploitation. Yeah, Liu Kang. That's what I was talking about in Mortal Kombat. Thank you. Carlin says some theories say that Bruce Lee was deleted. Uh, I'm not entertaining those conspiracy theories. It's been over it's been over 50 years now. Like I don't entertain those things. We've already had the autopsies. They've done they've already had an autopsy. They've already done investigations. You know, he died from a cerebral edema. There was no I don't yeah, I'm that was one of the things that kind of annoyed me about black people back in the 80s and 90s is that they all believe these little stupid conspiracy theories about Bruce Lee. I'm like, well, y'all shut the fuck up. Like, no, none of that shit is real. Like he wasn't poisoned. He wasn't assassinated. He was no. He was simply someone who worked himself to death. Um, Problem was he was taking a pain relief pill, like a some sort of knockoff Tylenol. Well, I don't want to say knockoff Tylenol, but it was something he was taking when he was in Hong Kong because he had severe back pain because when he was younger in America and he started when he was first started weight training, he pulled uh, he pulled a nerve in his lower vertebrae while doing good morning exercises. Good morning exercise is a exercise where you bend over at the waist without bending your legs. So it's not like a deadlift where you at least you bend where you bend down like deadlift. I mean with good mornings, it's like you're bowing and you keep your legs straight. But he decided to do good morning exercises with 100 pounds on his back without working out. And he pinched a nerve in his back. Um, the doctor at first told him he wasn't going to kick again, but he got serious about his training and was able to. Some people say he was in better shape after his hospitalization than before. But it wasn't due to him getting into a fight. It wasn't like in the movie Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, where the guy he fought in real life, Wong Jack Man, um, kicked him so hard that he it messed up his spine. That's not what happened. He pinched a nerve in his back doing good morning exercises without warming up, and he was doing it with 100 pounds. Mind you, the man was only 135 pounds soaking wet, and he's doing good morning exercises with 100 pounds. So he frequently took that like I said, pain relief, pain medicine for his lower back pain because of that pinched nerve, and he had a headache, so he was given. No, I'm sorry. So he was. I think he was taking some sort of subscription medication for his back pain, and then he also had a headache. And the actress he was working with at the time that he wanted to star in a new movie for him uh, gave him like a Tylenol. Um, I think it's pretty much confirmed that he was having an affair with this girl at the time, and it wasn't the first time. Bruce was a known womanizer. It happens. Uh, I know and it wasn't his first affair with a celebrity. I think his first one was with Sharon Tate from the movie Longstreet, because he was hired on the set of Longstreet to be the fight choreographer, and he was having an affair with Sharon Tate at the time. Oh well. Anyway, um, so the he was at the girl's house and later complained about a headache. And like I said, he was at her house, so it's pretty much confirmed now that he was having an affair with her. And so she gave him some sort of Tylenol knockoff analgesic similar to Tylenol. And this is why people tell you to let them. This is why doctors always tell you to let them know what sort of medication you're taking before they prescribe you something, because there can be um, it can be a drug to drug interaction between those two different drugs. And that's what happened between the back pain medicine and the pain relief he took for his headache. Had some sort of drug to drug interaction, which caused him to, you know, lose consciousness. And the girl, freaked out. She called the producer, um, and they, got him to the hospital. Then they found out he had died from a cerebral edema, which means brain swelling. And then, there's been further investigations into his health, and it showed that, he had some hash in his body, in his bloodstream. So he had probably even smoked hash, or ate, or had like an edible at the time. Um, and that he was just pushing his body to the max. So there was nothing, there was no, so it was officially ruled death by misadventure, through a cerebral edema. Um, but no one killed him. He wasn't poisoned. He wasn't assassinated. There wasn't people out to get him. Like, yes, there were some people in the martial arts community that disliked him because he often said that most classical Asian martial arts were ineffective. So yes, that earned him some enemies, and the fact that he could be a bit cocky at times, which is how he ended up in that fight with Wong Jackman. But I don't think to the point where he had people trying to delete him. He had people who wanted to beat him up, and and he was frequently challenged, uh, on his movie, on movie sets and stuff like that. But there's just, yeah, there's no evidence that anyone took him out. So Carson said that was an iconic fight scene with Kareem and Bruce. Yeah, yeah, because like I said, Kareem was doing Jeet Kune Do. Like, Bruce taught him Jeet Kune Do, and like I said, he was a strong family friend. Uh, he had babysit Bruce's kids a few times. So he like Kareem, like, it, Bruce, like he was like a genuine friend of Bruce. Carson says, "Oh yeah, you have to be careful with good mornings and deadlifts." Yeah, this is why I don't even like doing Roman deadlifts. When I do Roman deadlifts, I don't use a lot of. I don't think I've never used more than 50 pounds per uh per arm when I did Roman deadlifts. And even then, I rarely. And even then, when I did that, that wasn't that wasn't that was usually on the third set. Like, I would start off with a lighter weight. I would usually start off with like about like 25, then lift about 40, and then I might like lift 50 or maybe 70, something like that on the third set. I've not I've never done like Roman deadlifts starting off with anything heavier than 30 pounds, which, with if that was a barbell, since I was using 30 with each arm, that would have been like 60 pounds. But and then again, even when I do the deadlifts, that's not my first exercise. Like, uh, so I would have never started off my exercise with a deadlift. Now, with Bruce doing good morning exercises without a warm up, that was just a patently bad idea. I guess he was doing it as, I don't know if he was doing it for his waist or his lower back, but it would never occur to me to start off my routine doing good morning exercises. And when when I learned about that way back in like 1992 or whenever I learned about it, I think it was around 92, I never did good morning exercises after that. I was like, "Oh no." I was scared to I was like what, 14. I was scared to death. I'm like, I am not going to do those exercises and possibly pinch a nerve in my back like him. I was getting late. I'm about to go. Um, Colin said Bruce was a man of his time. All those dudes were getting it in back then. Yeah, that's why I hate when I hear people like Michael Jai White talking out his ass about Bruce. Like, dude, you don't know anything. You don't know anything about Bruce Lee. Like, shut up. I hate, and I think because DJ Vlad always tricks him into talking about this shit on his interviews. Plus, DJ Vlad loves seeing black men say stupid shit. But Michael Jai White is always talking out his ass about stuff he doesn't know about Bruce Lee, about Shaolin. He said there's no real Shaolin anymore. Like that's not true. He said that Bruce Lee wasn't a real fighter. Now, if you mean professional fighter, yes. But Michael Jai White wasn't a real fighter either. Like he always is like, dude, he posts YouTube videos saying he's fighting this MMA fighter. And it's like, no, you're not. You're sparring with them. You sparring an MMA fighter is not fighting. That's just bullshit. And they're not, and they don't even be hard sparring. So it's like he's so full of shit. And he talks about how he was a street fighter and all this sort of stuff. So was Bruce. I mean, Bruce has when people talk about Bruce, since he can't speak for himself, his stories are corroborated by multiple people, whereas Michael Jai White is telling us stuff first, from himself. He's there's no one corroborating his stories. We know that Bruce used to like be a bit of was a bit of a hooligan back in Hong Kong. Also, we also know that he won a Golden Gloves boxing fight back in Hong Kong when he was still in high school. And we know that he trained professional fighters. So um, we have American kickboxing because of Bruce Lee, because one of the people he trained was a point karate champion at the time and got tired of point karate fighting, wanted to switch to full contact. And the stuff that he learned from Bruce, he he took that he took boxing, and with that and added that to his karate skills, that became American kickboxing. He's considered the founder of that. Not Bruce, his student. Um, what's his name? I always forget his name, but anyway, yeah, we have American kickboxing because of Bruce Lee. um, MMA is because of Bruce Lee. Like the 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 the, the hybrid martial arts training along along with the physical cross training comes out of Jeet Kune Do, which is why Jeet Kune Do is often called the father of MMA. Well, while Bruce Lee's called the father of MMA. So yes, while he wasn't a professional fighter himself, he had gotten into multiple altercations. Um, one as a young hooligan in Hong Kong, and later on in America when people wanted to challenge him. And three, he taught professional fighters, people like Chuck Norris and Mike. What's his name? Mike, whatever his name is. But yeah, Carson said Bruce is from the Bay. I bet he threw hands and feet. Yeah, like he went from Seattle to Oakland to LA because we usually because that's no the funny thing is that's normally how we break up the the evolution of his martial arts. We say that when he first started out, he was doing modified Wing Chun. That was the Seattle era when he developed Lee Jun Fan Gung Fu. That was the Oakland era, and then uh, when he developed Jeet Kune Jeet Kune Do, the final evolution of his system was in the LA era. So yeah, and I think in all those three places, he pretty much used to live in Chinatown. So and you know he is usually the fights he got in America were when he was on Hollywood TV sets, like stuntmen and other people might challenge him. And then, like I said, when there was Dan said there was a few times when there was like some road rage going on. He would get out of the car and fight people. So, Jackie Chan also talked about when he was a stuntman on the set of Into the Dragon, because that's how Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan met. Because Jackie Chan was at the time a teenager working as a stuntman on Into the Dragon. Michael Jai White somehow said that Jackie Chan is bigger than Bruce Lee. I'm like, how the fuck would you know? You never saw Bruce Lee. I can't stand Michael Jai White. He's annoying. Like he just, but yeah, um, Jackie Chan look. He'll tell you to this day he looked up to Bruce Lee back then, and he said he got so much. He said he got so much props because um, Bruce Lee came to the bowling alley where they were at and hung out with them. Like I said, Bruce, back then Jackie Chan was just a beginning as a stuntman before he was an actor, and it was very humbling to be able to just hang out with Bruce. I think it was at a bowling alley or whatever. He said he when he was on set, he saw people trying to challenge Bruce Lee all the time. Like so, and a few times Bruce Lee would take up the challenge. He would hit the person and say, "Go back to work." So, Alcon says, "Can you imagine saying you fought Bruce Lee at a stoplight?" Yeah, exactly. Or more accurately, can you imagine someone saying, "I got my ass beat by Bruce Lee at a stoplight"? Those nowadays those sort of altercations can be deadly because you don't know if someone's packing. Like I wouldn't do it. Here in Baltimore, you have a fit of road rage, you get out the car, someone pop the trunk. They're gonna try to pop the trunk on you. I, I I leave people alone. Like I walk around with a bunch of EDC weapons, but I'm not looking for any smoke. My All the weapons I carry on me on a day to day are last resorts, except for like my tactical pen and tactical flashlight, because I can actually use those for things other than weapons. But pretty much, it, but besides those two things, like all the other things I carry on me are like last resorts. I don't want I don't want smoke with people. I may talk trash, but I don't want smoke because fights are unpredictable in real life. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. It's past 12. I didn't realize it was so late. Um, but good stuff. Let me. Hopefully, I can get some more people coming back into the into the chat room. I was supposed. Uh, Moonlit had invited me to be on his live stream earlier, but it was like at lunchtime. I was eating, so by the time I was done eating, like I think he was already done and then went to bed. So maybe next time. Anyway, I'm going. So Take it easy, guys. See you later, Agatha, if she's still here. Nothing. One of my homeboys is watching too, so I'm out. See you.